Hey, everyone.
Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
going well. How about you?
Well, I have been a little bit sick yesterday and the weekend. I went to a local party here. I ate a lot of food from the food trucks and seems like one.
Great. Welcome everyone to another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross Project Council meeting. Today's the 25th of June in the year 2024. We had a little private session at the beginning, and we're going to get started on the full meeting here. Oh boy, it's been a while. So if folks can help with note taking, that's always appreciated. I'll drop the thing in there again. Please add yourself to the present list with your GitHub handle if you're able to. And let's get into perhaps announcements. Anyone?
We do have a standards collab space meeting following this one. Information's on the public calendar, so please join us if that's something you'd like to learn more about or participate in.
Great. Anything else?
We have a board meeting on Friday.
Excellent.
Yep.
With that in mind, anything from the board to update? Nothing that I'm aware of. And then next on the list would be things to take to the board. And there's nothing in that list. Okay, so great.
Actually, there is one announcement. Actually, there is one thing we should announce, which is we've come to we've signed our agreement with Cloudflare for them providing resources for our projects as part of STF. So that's really exciting and really cool. We're really happy to have them. They've been really excellent to work with. And yeah, glad to have them as a more official part of the community.
Yep. So we'll be doing some blogs on that. Also, if you saw, Fastly did a blog yesterday about supporting the Linux Foundation all up. We had a deal with Fastly last year. They provide CDN services for jQuery, for example, which is huge. And so if you think about that blog, that covers the Linux Foundation family, but they've been supporting us for about a year now. So give Fastly some love as well.
And as for next steps, we're meeting with Cloudflare just as kind of like a kickoff today, and then we'll be working through the STF program to migrate projects that want to and sort of offer them more officially as a service to projects that might use them.
Great. Claudio?
Yeah, first, what does STF stands for?
Oh, sorry, that's the Sovereign Tech Fund.
Oh, stupid me, of course.
No. Our German delegate asked.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes it funny, to be honest, right? But like, it's never stupid to ask to spell out acronyms, because like we live in an industry where it's like it's all over the place all the time. And no, thank you for asking. I'm sure a whole bunch of people on the streams are happy to actually know about this. So.
Yes.
Cool. Another question. No, but another question is, so Node.js already has an existing agreement with Cloudflare. Would we get transition or existing agreement with whatever that the OpenJS Foundation is drafting with them? Or will it still be independent or midterm or any other options?
Depends. Depends on what the project wants to do and what's practical, I would say.
Right. Because right now, until very recently, we had just a business account with like Cloudflare to upgrade us for enterprise. And they pretty much removed restrictions of a lot of things just because of the specific needs of the Node.js project. I'm not sure. To be very honest, I think my personal opinion, it would make sense that this becomes managed by the OpenJS Foundation, just at least in the contact point things, because right now, like, it's pretty much me, Richard, and Richard Lau, and maybe one other person, like the main point of contact with Cloudflare. We even already have like a Slack channel, like with Slack Connect with them, which you are also part of them. So just wondering, because delegating the the managing part of it, like the legal and etc. to the foundation, I think just less headache for people in the build big and to know project.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, it's part of the conversation between the project and us and LFIT to make sure we do the right thing. I think everything that you said is correct. I'd also add that I don't know how formal your agreement is with Cloudflare, but we now have like a signed contract. And so when we talk about, why Toby's laughing. Like when we talk
Do that
about
face again, please. That was amazing.
predictability to our projects and making sure we don't have handshake deals and things written down and all the good things that we've talked about at length, like we've got that with them. So yeah, if it works for the project to move it over, I think that for all the right reasons it would be good to do so.
That's one of the issues that we have, because on the beginning of the year, like this year, when we started to implement, or was like end of last year, I think, transition to Cloudflare Workers, because we had this continuous incidents with our own infrastructure, like with distribution binaries. We had to chase down people at Cloudflare, and like multiple different people had to find what was this thing. And I think it's probably pretty much a handshake deal. Like we don't have anything set in stone. That's very dangerous, in my opinion, for a project on our scale to not actually have dedicated people there. And we have now points of contact, but like I mentioned, having something signed, it just way better. Yeah.
So I think that's something we have discussed, like on the build side, and like we're in agreement that as the Linux IT can step up to formalize those relationships, they should, right? Like they have been pulled into the relationship with Mac Stadium, and so I haven't seen anybody who's opposed to that. It's just a matter of it actually taking place.
Robin?
Yeah, and for folks, I just want to give context. So part of the Sovereign Tech Fund work stream is to consolidate just this patchwork quilt of vendors that we have accumulated over, 15 plus years for many projects, consolidate them to a few and have signed legal agreements with them in a partner program, so they know what they get from a marketing partner perspective. And we know we have some longevity. It's not, if people come and go, there's just more of a reassurance. So that helps with stability. So you'll see us doing more marketing with our partners. You'll see our website updated, featuring our new partners as well. So, and the Linux Foundation IT is taking on a lot of that accountability for managing those resources.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Anything else on that? And welcome, Paris. I see you joined. Nice to see you. Cool. So getting back to the agenda here, we have a couple of the list of staff updates. The first one is waiting on legal info. I don't know if there's any updates on any of these. I think they've all been lingering for a while. Not. Here's the next one, which is waiting on staff update, which is the conflict resolution training. I don't know if there's any update on that.
I put a note in today. I've connected with the person that Wes recommended. She's fabulous. She's working on some budget proposals. So we'll see how that comes through.
Okay. Great, and nothing on waiting on website updates, so we can jump into the main agenda here. So the first
Claudio had his hand up.
Oh,
on the last
sorry,
one.
thank you. Claudio?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no worries. Just want to comment the the Node project. There was a little bit of from few collaborators, a little bit of distrust on the fact that, I mean, I understand why it took so long but maybe the communication to them why it was taking so long was not the best, maybe. But again, it was raised a little bit of distrust of why the foundation is taking too long. There was an issue that they opened on the admin side of Node for them to take care of the things in their own hands. I'm not sure if that was the issue that you commented, Robin, today, because I got a notification that you commented on an issue saying that you were reaching on one of the vendors. I'm not sure if you commented the CPC one.
Initially reached out to someone from the Linux Foundation. It was tens of thousands of dollars. And again, our budget is like, actually, we have no budget. So we would go, we would take it, but we just are working with limited resources. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I do get it. It just.
But I saw the node. Yeah. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. It's not more like a feedback. It's more like. Those are the sort of situations which is tricky to convince, to people from projects that we actually work into things in the best of our abilities. And I also wonder, was there anything we as a CPC could have done differently? Like maybe, because this was waiting on staff, right? So there was nothing that the CPC could have been done meantime, right? It's more like a question. If there's anything we can do for next time to better the communication between the project and saying, no, we're actually doing things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because
yeah, I didn't know that Node was following this as a contingency for one of their activities. So
gotcha. Yeah,
there's always, I would always welcome CPC assistance on anything we do. And actually you all do help me a lot every day. So
yeah, I'm just worried because there are some people it's almost more like a distrust. It's more like sometimes the question, are we really, doing due diligence? And I just wonder, is there any sort of reassurance you can give them that no, this is just a process, sorry for taking too long, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or was there anything that we could have done? If not, we're fine. I just more like a self-reflection time, for us. Is there anything else we could have done? Yeah.
Toby's got.
Can I actually address this, Claudio? Because I was on that thread of one of those threads, and I think it's important to sort of like, I agree a bunch of things didn't go right in there, but I'd like to leave the staff out of that conversation, because I don't think that's where the problem was. And I sort of saw Claudio sort of like the kind of, I mean, and I agree with you that distrust is a bit of a big word, but it had some flavors of people being, what the hell is going on? And we don't see, like, it seems that people are choosing what they value to invest time in. And that's not the things that we care about. And I agree, that's kind of like super problematic and kind of damaging to the relationship and to what we're all collectively trying to achieve. 100%. To me, like the biggest takeaway, and it's something that was really interesting, I don't know if it's on that thread, but it's literally the person that was raising the issue was entirely surprised that they could have just gone to the CPC meetings and championed it, right? Like they didn't know. They felt like the CPC was some sort of thing where only, representatives of the projects are allowed to show up, and that they couldn't just come here and do this. And my expectation was, if no one's showing up to actually champion this thing, no one really cares, right? And I think if there's anything, that's kind of here. To some degree, the role of the foundation staff and even Robin, to some degree, is to sort of support what the projects want and are asking for in the CPC. And so if the CPC doesn't take on that role, because just like people imagine that this is like, there's some entity who's responsible for this, then we sort of like get into this weird miscommunication loop, and it creates exactly those outcomes. So from my perspective, what needs to be like the thing that I think we could do more to improve is really show people that this is open. If you care about something, not only can you come talk about it, but like we'd love for you to come and like champion it here, because it makes our lives easier. And we actually have someone in the right place doing the job. And so I feel like that, for me, that's really what we should be working on. And I'm done. I'll step down from my soapbox and let Michael step.
Yeah, I'm just gonna provide a bit of a counterpoint in that, like, totally agree with your point about like people should hopefully know they can come and champion things. I also don't think they should have to come and champion things. Like, yeah, it's great if they want to, but like, just because you're basically saying, come and talk to a whole bunch more people, it gets more complicated versus something simple. So like, we should encourage it, but like not hope that, like, we should try and make the project's lives easier versus saying, well, yeah, if you want to do something, you actually have to do a bunch of more work and do it at this other place. Anyway, that's sort of an aside. In this case, I think which would have been really helpful is, I don't know is if in the issue it says anywhere, we looked at it, it was too expensive, we're not doing it, right? Like, I think that closure would have been good to say, like, we had that closure, we closed the issue, like, done, right? Versus it hanging out there forever. That's the one thing I think that might have helped. Anyway, my 2 cents. Claudio's next.
Yeah, just to kind of close the topic, I tend to agree with Michael here. I mean, I actually advocate for people to join here, think, hey, it's an open space to everyone, you know, you don't need to be CPC. I think I kind of said it a few times in a few meetings. But it's also, I have the feeling, because it's kind of lack of context, but that same person that was, you know, kind of upset, they also chatted on an internal channel with a, you know, the OpenJS Slack channel. I get from where they're coming from, and that's where, oh gosh, maybe we could, you know, have written here and updated, etc. Because the last update was really a long time ago. But I really wonder, you know, that's pretty much what was my question, you know, when I raised my hand initially. Is there any sort of project management thing, or like even small quality of life improvement can do, like a bot that can comment the issues? Hey, this has been labeled on waiting on staff or waiting on this, but hasn't had any update. Should we update it, etc.? Because there's so much we do that I have the feeling we just honestly, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, forgot to write a comment there as an update. And those things happen. And yeah, I just wonder if there's anything we can do here to improve that, to even create a reassurance, okay, yeah, they are looking into it. It's not just because, you know, we need to come out the way here and ask, hey, what the hell is happening, for them to actually get any closure. Yeah, but, you know, I'm commenting this here, but no biggie. I mean, I think that if we all agree, okay, yeah, we could do a little quality of life improvement. Let's write a little GitHub action bot or something, you know, to, you know, remind us, because, you know, we are all human. It's completely normal to forget things, I think.
Yeah, super briefly, I think that at some point we might want to revisit the fact that we record the minutes into a doc and not directly into the issues, on one hand, and maybe have some form of automated minute taking, was like, you know, some kind of AI thingy, so that we actually have minutes on one hand if we need to have minutes, but we actually update the issues in the right place, versus this sort of like weird copy paste thing where sometimes we miss things out like this. So I do think that we could improve something here for sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Like, if something's on the agenda and we touch on it even minimally, we should put a comment in the issue, you know, for each meeting. But I agree with the other stuff too. It'd be great to have, you know, AI meeting minutes or something would be great. And frankly, I've been a little bit bad lately about not committing the minutes back to the repo even. So I don't know when the last time that has happened. I think it's been a little sporadic.
The same here. Like, we own this now, both. So, you know.
Yeah, Claudio, I'm not sure the issue that you're suggesting. but if there's something for sure. Like the AI meeting minutes or something, or
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally sent us a DM. I meant to everyone. Yeah, I mean, do we want to open an issue to keep track that we want to improve this? Either the minute taking or having a reminder bot or like self-ingestion of relevant, because every time usually on our meetings when we're talking about something, we have the issue number right on the left of where we're talking, right? So maybe there's some sort of automation we can do here, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of things that we do, we talk here and we forget to bring them back to the repository.
yeah, if somebody wants to create an issue, that I think it's something we should look into. All right, let's see. We're half past, so maybe we'll jump into the agenda and try to crank through some stuff here. I think it was a good conversation. There's a lot there that I'm glad we talked about. But getting back to the agenda, the first item on the list is 1320. This is chaos metrics and additional tooling. Ulysses, you open this. I see there's been some chatter. Any updates or?
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe in a deep dive session, in a specific session, maybe we can go and check that deeply. But basically, the idea is what we were discussing in the Node.js project about the collaborator engagement in the long term and so on. We wanted to have some metrics. So the idea was to see like a fast way to see how that evolved over the time. So for the current company that I work with, we actually get a lot of metrics for open source project. And I thought that might be something interesting for us in terms of the foundation. So we use a tool called Quadron, if I pronounce that correctly. But basically, it's a tool made by Vitergia, which is part of the Chaos Initiative and so on. And the idea there is like you can scan full organizations or just specific repositories and so on, and you get a lot of metrics like out of the box, basically. We use that for taking some decisions sometimes and to understand specifically the progression. I was thinking that in terms of the foundation, it might be something useful for tracking the project a little bit on how they evolve over the time. So you can get a lot of interesting things like a boost factors and stuff like that. And also maybe a good option for us to understand new projects that want to become part of the foundation. So maybe it's a good idea for us to get a better record of the historical contributions and more about people and so on. But yeah, that's just an idea of having more like kind of visualization data, which by the way is not it's not competing with the other visualization tool that the Linux Foundation has. They have like a different ways of visualizing data because we actually in Express project, actually we use both right now. So because we get different information, but yeah, the idea is to do a deep dive session on it or maybe I can record like a small demo video, whatever, just play around with the links that you have there so you can get a better idea. So my idea was to see if there is engagement on this initiative at all. And if that's a positive thing, let's see how we can explore it.
Cool. Sorry, Adrian, go ahead.
Yeah, so this overlaps with the ecosystem report. We definitely need a tool like this. We're collecting information about the project's members, and we want to evaluate different projects too. So I definitely will support this effort. And if you need any collaboration there, I will zoom up because I was working on some scripts already, but this is a better approach. So comment and let me know if you need anything else. Okay.
Yeah, I also think this is really interesting, and Ulysses, I'm kind of helping slowly onboard projects to the LFX Insights platform. So we just enabled it for Node yesterday. We don't have data yet, but yeah, I'm curious how these can work together, and eventually, like what we want to actually propose as a best practice when projects join the foundation.
Chaos does some wonderful work in diversity as well and helping projects in that regard. So love to do more with them.
Ben, the next issue on the agenda is the 2024 Foundation Project Health Survey. I don't know if that dovetails, but also if Ulysses or anyone else can drop some notes in the doc or in the issue. That's always helpful too. Yeah, Ben, you want to give us an update on this next issue, 1313?
Yes, we have received, drumroll please, 8 submissions. So that's better than it was last time. So I'll send out like kind of a final reminder, final prod to get folks to respond. This is doing, I think, actually what it was intended to do. Like the projects that are active have responded, and the projects that are less active haven't. And so this is sort of the idea, is to flag for us which ones we want to engage with and sort of say, hey, like, how are things going on your project? Is the main contact that we have still the main contact? Is the main maintainer still the maintainer? Is it someone else we just don't know about? Or is something else going on? Maybe we want to archive the project, right? So yeah, good information. We'll collate everything and share things out at the end of the month. So maybe in the CPC session after the working session. It was like 2 weeks, right? Yeah, with sort of like a plan for what we want to do for folks that we haven't heard from.
Great. Thank you. I was looking to the next issue, which is again kind of related. Archive the Hospital Run project. I see, Ben, you added a checklist.
That's been done. I think we just had one extra little floating logo that we were going to remove, but yeah.
Okay.
The maintainer's done that already, archived it, yeah.
Okay, all right, great. Excellent. So moving along, the next issue is 1300, improving the security posture of the CPC. There's a lot of talk here.
So the summary of this was we do a similar intake form for new CPC members that we're already using for the travel fund, and I think Ben had some action items there, and also was really busy with a bunch of other things, and so I don't know what the status is.
Looks like Ben updated the form. Got a couple
form.
of
Yeah, I was saying form is good to go. Jordan, thank you for testing. I appreciate your comments. They make me smile. So yeah, I think this is just creating the workflow around reviewing submissions to the form, right? Which I think is going to be very similar to what we do with the travel fund, right? We'll have a similar spreadsheet that'll show things that have been reviewed and things that haven't been reviewed. And when new requests come in, we'll do the same type of review that we do for the travel fund in a private session, right?
So the next step here would be essentially write a little bit of policy that says this somewhere and clean up like the rest
We
of
have
the
to clean up.
process.
Yeah, I think we need a PR that changes the process doc that we currently have in the CPC repo. Yep. So I'll add that as a comment.
Oh, cool. Yes, and then we can also address, Michael, your comment about the policy for the travel fund. Kind of like fits nicely in the same conversation. So we can add that there.
Right.
Cool.
Yep. Excellent.
The next step is a PR.
Cool. I look forward to it. All right, then moving along. The next item on the agenda is issue 1298, selection of new code of conduct team community members. Do we, I feel like I can't remember. Last week, did we cancel
Yes.
the session essentially? I think maybe some people hung out. But should we plan to do next week to work on this, or what?
I think that would be great to have as next week's session. Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. Excellent. Okay. So that is the plan. I will copy and paste that down below. Great. So next item on the agenda then is, where did it go? document code of conduct team selection process.
It's the same thing. One is actually do it, the other one is document it. Now we need to document it before we do it.
Okay, sounds good.
We tried to cut corners and like that didn't go well.
Yeah, let me add this one below as well, just so it's clear. We have both of those. Great. Then next one is create new ecosystem sustainability program.
I think we can close that. We've been working through the projects, trying to onboard about 3 a week. So yeah, I mean, speaking of connecting with projects old and new, it's been good.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have an update on this? Like, how's it going? How people are reacting to it, etc.? That would be great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we've onboarded what, 2 or 3. The node project is close. They're working through that. Again, connecting with some other maintainers. So we can give an update. Why don't I have the spreadsheet? We do have a really nice tracking spreadsheet and working with Joe Eames at Hero Devs, who's our partner lead. But yeah, it's been very well received by the projects.
Yeah, the conversations I've been part of have been very pleasant and enthusiastic, and yeah, so
awesome.
Hopefully that continues.
Yeah, great. I dropped the link to the issue. If we're going to close it, if somebody can drop a note in there and close it, that'd be great. Cool. Yeah. Where am I at here? Document best practices for community health files. It's the next item on the agenda here. I think where we I see Chris dropped a link to the GitHub docs health files, and I think maybe we were waiting for like Express or something to be a guinea pig on this, or
so I think the original idea was to wait on Express, and then Express had a ton of other things to do. And then Chris suggested that we should maybe just like actually leverage the very basic documentation and start from there. And that might be like 80% for 10% of the work. And so I think it's a great idea. The question is, where exactly do we drop this, and how do we organize it? Is this like where does it go in the repository? Is kind of like what's left to figure out here, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the information required for somebody to turn it into prose is present in the issue or linked from it. As for where it goes, I mean, we have project resources in the repo, so maybe that makes sense. We could put a community health file guidance. I don't know, it's a really long file name, but something like that. But I think the hardest, the hardest task is just having someone take the time to write it up, and then it'll be a lot easier to, we just put it in a place and see who gets upset about it, and put it wherever is better.
Yeah, it reminds me of the IP guidelines that I wrote after joining, after bringing AMP on, for like sort of this very basic stuff that you need to figure out as you join, and then once you have it, like you no longer really go look into it. Maybe a similar format or linking it from the same space or like that from the process document will help.
Yeah, and I mean, linking to it from the onboarding checklist seems very helpful.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Regardless
yes.
of where it lives. Yeah, totally.
okay, great. If anybody
I'll
can
drop a few comments in the.
Thank you, Toby. Next item on the agenda is the community voting members, make project and community representation simpler. I don't know where we landed with this. The last comment is in April. Toby, you had a proposal to remove all different complex and confusing selection processes. Yeah, I feel like this is another one that kind of lingers, and I'm not sure. Whenever I come back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, what do we decide here?
So, if I remember correctly, I think the proposal of separating the role of someone from how they were selected to have that role was well received, and seemed to be actually fairly aligned with original expectations. So I think that part's okay. I think the thing that I try to sneak in at the same time, which was not well received or differently received, was to sort of like change the grouping of like how many voices were on each side of between the larger projects and the smaller ones, which is entirely understandable. I did it on purpose so we would have a conversation around this. Given that like this needs to go to the board, whether we change one or the other, I think it makes sense to actually focus on doing both at the same time, unless the conversation on how many seats really blocks everything and people really aren't happy about it, in which case we should just do the first one. So I think maybe we should have a session on it, not the next session, but the session afterwards.
That sounds good, and it's got the label for it, so, you know, if we don't have anything pressing, the next official meeting, we should do this one. Okay, sounds good. We'll discuss it more then. Here's another oldie but a goodie. 1133 requirements for projects releasing internal projects to third-party contributor. Oh, I guess this is waiting on legal info too, so we kind of touched on this before.
Yeah, I have this whole list that went to Andy, then went back to the LF, so I need to follow up with the LF.
Okay. It looks like I removed the agenda label in October of last year. Toby added it back on April of this year.
Yeah, I added it back because we were having conversations around security and moving projects over, and this was like tied to it. And now like I don't know what we want to do. I mean, like removing the label is fine. That works.
It's captured in the waiting for staff update as well.
All right,
so,
sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'll drop the label for now. Okay. Moving on. Code of conduct plan of action. This is another oldie but a goodie. There aren't that many check boxes left on this one. I'll drop it in the chat if anybody wants to see. We got 10 minutes too, just as a time check here. I suppose
the biggest ones are what we're doing next week, right?
Yeah.
Which is the selection process. And then there were some much smaller changes around moving to 2.1 or whatever the next version of this thing is. I think that's kind of like the last bit that was in that PR.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll come back to this PR once we're done with the COC team and stuff. Wrap it up. Cool. The next one is 1110. This is standardizing on collab spaces over working groups. I opened this a long time ago. Yeah, Natalia,
we have agreement. We just need to write it up, and it's like an annoying sort of like spending time to clean stuff up and like remove a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, Natalia did some good work too to kind of get in front of that a little bit and capture the areas where it's mentioned and all this stuff. So yeah, okay. This just needs to be done. I wonder if I should even add like good first issue or something to this and see if anybody can help.
I mean, that's wishful thinking and also like pretty brutal for whoever's going to do that.
Well, you know, they don't have to do it all, but you know, chunk it up. I
mean,
it.
The thing is you kind of do, because like it's, you have to remove all of the things together, and they're all over the place.
All right, don't tell the label. I don't want to abuse any newcomers. But okay, if anybody has some cycles and wants to do some, you know, busy work for lack of a better term, that would be great. Next on the agenda is one that is also from the staff update stuff, the nonviolent communication. So I don't know if we want to, I mean, I guess
I dropped an update in there, so
great.
this morning.
I'm gonna leave the agenda label on that one for now. IP policy license exemption request for loopback. This one is also waiting on legal. Yeah, I don't.
You probably just need a loop back legal meeting, Joe. Remember when we had one about a year or so ago and they were chasing down old contributors on a license issue? So it's probably worth just circling back with that project.
Okay. All right, I will look into that. Okay. That is it for the agenda. And we have, what, a few minutes left? We have 7 minutes left. What do y'all want to talk about? We know what we're doing next week, so we're good there. Is there anything else we want to discuss? I would ask the folks drop the issues that we've gone through today. Drop a comment in there if you're able to. There's not a lot in this meeting document here, so we didn't get very many notes added here at all. So if anybody can help there, that would be great. I may just go dump this into the repo, so you can add any of the updates as a suggestion there. Toby, you have your hand up?
Yeah, no, we had a discussion earlier about what the process was for approving travel funds. And if we want to chat about this briefly, I think that would be, maybe we can solve it in 5 minutes.
Let's try.
Essentially, I think there's some, disagreement is too strong a word, but some different understanding of what we had agreed upon, which is not greatly captured in the policy. The way I remember this is we wanted to be able to move quickly, and so there would be an announcement on the private list of travel requests, and then people would be able to comment there, and then whoever showed up at the meeting and the private session would make the decisions. That was my understanding of how we proceed. And the language is not exactly clear here. And Michael suggests that what he would like to see instead would be the same process that we use for pretty much everything else, which is to make sure that everyone has had a right to comment on, the decision, which I feel like the fact that we're shipping it to the mailing list kind of has that covered from my perspective. But I think it's worth having that conversation.
Because I'll cast it, since I'm on the other, not the other side, but whatever. So sort of like, from my perspective, the initial email
These aside
has given people to the ability to provide input, but like if we decide to reject one of the things, like it would be, that's different than saying, hey, I think you could do this, right? Like, so I don't see that like a day or two saying, hey, this is the proposal we made. We're going to move forward unless anybody objects in the next day or something. That really adds enough delay. By default, we say we only do it once a month. If it's so time critical, we should do it more often. And that just keeps it in the same spirit of like, every decision is by consensus versus a minority potentially, or the majority plus one, which is not really the spirit, I think, of, at least from my perspective, is not the spirit of what we want to achieve.
Chris?
Yeah, I would not like to see an approval by default. Like, I think it's important that the final rubber stamp be done a little more formally, in one of these meetings with one or more chairs present for finalizing that decision. But outside of that, Michael, would it be sufficient to just on the notification that goes out on the email, just say, we've received this request, please provide input by the X meeting date, and that meeting would be the one to finalize the decision? Would that?
I'm more like decisions. It's interesting because I had this exact conversation with somebody when I did an internal presentation. Here's how Node works. And they're like, one of their concerns that they're raised is like, not everybody can make meetings. And like, so as soon as you make the decision in the meeting, you're excluding a number of people in some of those decisions, right? So the way I explained that we do things to avoid that is we may take, like, the group together says, this is what we think we should do. But it's a simple matter of sending that to the mailing list to say, this is what we decided. Unless anybody objects, we're going to do it by a day from now, right? That means everybody got a chance to say, wait a sec, I don't agree with that. And silence is accepted as agreement, right? And so it doesn't really slow you down, but you've made it so that everybody had the opportunity to participate in that decision versus not. That's all.
Right. No, it sounds like we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
You would have that period, you send out the email if folks can object. And if folks have objections, that doesn't mean that those objections aren't going to be taken into consideration at the meeting just because they didn't show up, right? I would
Well, I'm
presume
talking
that this
about
group,
the after decision, not the, like, you can do a like, we've sent it out and said, please send, here's the list. You can say, like, what if you object to somebody being rejected? Right? Like, you haven't had the pre-notification doesn't give you that ability to say, wait a sec, no, I know that person, they should be approved.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, anytime you're talking about trying to get past a block, it gets complicated, it gets tricky regardless if it's in person, through email, whatever the channels are. That gets a lot more difficult to solve. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I've talked a lot already, so I'm going to let McKellen.
Yeah, just quickly with it, like 60 seconds. It sounds like the approval process afterwards might just cause more cycles to occur. It seems like, as I think Toby mentioned, this is sort of like a speed thing. We want to try to get those approvals in as quickly as possible. And it seems like this person from Greece already has been waiting for a week to get tickets. And so this is only going to get more expensive. So I guess that's my 2 cents, but I see it's 1 p.m. now, so.